What up everybody, D-Man back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Minus One discussion video. That's right, it's time I finally address the elephant in the room, or is that the two elephants in the room? In today's video, we will be talking about the very prominent theory that there will be two Godzillas in Godzilla Minus One. This is like a theory that's made for me, man. Look, all I'm saying is I went back and watched my theory video about two Godzillas in the MonsterVerse, and I was absolutely, undoubtedly right about probably 70% of the things I said in that video. There's no denying that there were two Godzillas walking around in the MonsterVerse during the era of humanity anymore. After Dagon, in the Godzilla Aftershock comic, all of the things I said turned out to be pretty much true. And as for my Shin Godzilla 2 theory, well, we'll never know because that movie seems to never be coming. We've got juicy stuff this time, guys. Like, this is probably one of the more exciting videos we'll be diving into for quite a while. In this video, I've put together a summary of all of the Godzilla Minus One, two Godzillas in one movie theories that I could find that don't necessarily refer to the original supposed leaks, although I will be addressing those in this video. Now, these rumors started out immediately after Godzilla Minus One was announced on November 3rd, 2022. Somebody took to 4chan to post a leaked plot synopsis of this upcoming movie. I'm not going to go through this full plot synopsis in this video, simply because, first of all, I don't like to cover plot leaks. Second of all, if it does wind up being true, I don't want to spoil the whole movie. Now, I will talk about some elements of that plot in this video because I'm going to be debunking some things. I am only covering it because I don't believe it at all. So I think it's fair game because I think it's just made up. And a couple things I want to do before we get into these rumors and start down the rabbit hole is go through a couple things that help us debunk what's coming. Bandai released two different versions of Godzilla Minus One. There's the Bandai Movie Monster Series Godzilla, and then there is the Bandai Monster King Series Godzilla. The only difference between the two of them is the size. There was also a lot of confusion surrounding what Banpresto is up to, as Banpresto is releasing a Godzilla Prize A version, implying the existence of a separate Godzilla Prize B version. A lot of people thought that the Prize B version might be a separate monster. Now, the reason I wanted to cover this is because Bandai has clearly demonstrated that they are willing to do two of the same Godzilla and call them different things. Now we have Banpresto, who's about to do the same thing. RX-105XIG clarified what Banpresto was doing. So here's our details on the upcoming Banpresto Godzilla Minus One. The sculpt is done by Yuji Sakai, and two of them will be figures. These are prizes, so you don't buy them. They are prizes that you can enter into a lottery in hopes of winning. These prizes are not in relation to designs. In fact, they're not even in relation to Godzilla Minus One in particular. The Prize A is a Godzilla 2023 figure. Prize B is simply a Godzilla dorsal plate. Prize C is a Godzilla mug. Prize D is a Gaza towel. Prize E is an acrylic stand collection, maybe even the one from Godzilla Minus One. Although, as we'll talk about in a minute, I actually don't think it is. I think it's like Burning Godzilla and some other stuff. Prize F is a black tumbler. Prize G is a canvas board illustration styled logo sticker. Prize H is a monster head magnet, and then there will be a secret prize which will be a separate Godzilla 2023 soft vice heat ray version. So that's where the second version of Godzilla 2023 comes from. These will be released in mid-November, and because they are done as a lottery, so their chances of you winning is very low, I believe these are going to run you $7. This is the same thing they did with Shin Godzilla. Now, remembering Shin Godzilla, a lot of rumors started out when Banpresto announced that there would be a Prize A and a Prize B version of Godzilla and that they would be different. And a lot of the rumor came from the fact that Banpresto was releasing two Shin Godzillas, which must mean Godzilla will have multiple forms in the movie. Well, I don't know how we figured that one out because that one actually turned out to be correct, but Banpresto simply released two versions of the same Godzilla, one normal Godzilla and then a heat ray Godzilla, at least if I'm not mistaken. I know for a fact that they didn't release a Kamata-kun or Shinagawa-kun. They did not reveal that at the time. That's the same thing happening here. And as you can see, this is a leaked picture of the Banpresto set, which is coming up. And it confirms all of the things we just talked about. It's got all of those upcoming prizes, it's got the Godzilla, and then it teases the existence of a mystery figure. So that's shooting down the rumors that Banpresto is going to be doing a separate Godzilla to represent this Godzilla B, this second Godzilla that will be in the movie. Okay, Childish Landino retweeted these supposed Bandai leaks on Twitter, which got them widespread. A lot of people talking about upcoming Bandai figures, and this led a lot of credence to people believing that there would be multiple forms of Godzilla in this new movie. So these leaks supposedly featured an an upcoming Godzilla 1955, an Anguirus 1955, and a Godzilla Minus One Monster A, implying once again the existence of a Monster B. Now, if this is an accurate thing, if this is an accurate leak for the upcoming Bandai figure list, this doesn't necessarily mean that they will be releasing two monsters. Now, yes, I know it's called Monster A, but maybe that's because they don't have the specialty names for them yet. Maybe it's because they don't necessarily have it named Movie Monster Series or King Series yet. Maybe it's because they're just simply putting that as a placeholder, and they will do updated versions. Remember, Bandai also released many versions of standard Shin Godzilla. They released Shin Godzilla, they released statue version of Shin Godzilla, they released frozen version of Shin Godzilla, they released purple version of Shin Godzilla, they released the universal version of Shin Godzilla. There was a ton of different Bandai Shin Godzilla figures that were released, and they were all a little bit different. Now you see where I'm going with this? That Bandai leak, if it's true, which I don't think it is personally, I'll believe it when I see it, but there's no, who is this guy who posted that? Is that guy reputable? I've never heard of him before, so I don't know why people are buying into it, but that doesn't mean anything at all. Monstrosities tweeted out in response to this Childish Landino post, kind of teasing that he believes Minus One might not be a Godzilla solo outing, talking about how maybe the people who claim to have insiders have it wrong. We've talked about how he kind of just believes that the leaks might probably be true, and he's excited about those possibilities. He's simply not shooting it down is what I'm saying. So he's not necessarily endorsing them as the truth, but he's not shooting them down either, saying that they could be real and he hopes they are. That'll be relevant again in a minute when we cover one of the videos he made on this movie. One more thing that teases the existence of this second Godzilla was when Tanami revealed the featured concept art and storyboards that were posted at the World of Mr. Yamazaki Museum exhibit. These feature a Godzilla head that looks nothing like the Godzilla we see in Godzilla Minus One. Before we go down the rabbit hole of saying that that is the separate Godzilla head, that's going to be the head of the Godzilla in this movie, I'm going to shoot that down for two reasons. Number one, while we do see a 3D render of this head that looks very different from the Godzilla we've seen, this one features much crazier teeth, a different set of spines on his head, a different neck pattern, and the mouth is much more Shin Godzilla based. These are all traits of a Godzilla. If the rumors are true, the second Godzilla wouldn't look like this. It would look like the pure version of Godzilla before any radiation poisoning, before any damage from the nuclear bomb. Basically, this movie's version of the Godzilla Soar. The other reason I'm going to shoot this down is because this was on a wall of concept art showing the development of Godzilla's design and how we wound up with what we wound up with. So this was just simply one of the stages they were on along the way. This all leads to the Monstrosities video in which he discusses Minus One. This video is called The Mysteries of Godzilla Zero. It's a wonderful video. I have it linked down below. You can go check it out for yourself. And now we will be addressing some of the supposed plot leaks. So if you don't want spoilers, maybe now's the time to tap out. So Godzilla Minus One was shot in the Kanto region of Japan as a period piece set between 1945 and 1947, which is in line with the rumors. The rumored title was Godzilla Zero. We're going to talk about where that comes from in just a minute. The rumors are that this film will be a semi-remake of the 1954 film with Serizawa and the Oxygen Destroyer back and two Godzillas front and center, one with radiation poisoning who has been baptized in the fires of the nuclear bomb, and the other a pure version of Godzilla, one that has skin texture like a whale, and one that does not feature the classic Godzilla dorsal plates, instead featuring one large dorsal fin. People believed that the G silhouette we saw represented that one single dorsal fin, that very large dorsal fin that sticks off his back like a whale, or like a shark. These two Godzillas would be at odds in the movie as they have different personalities and different motivations. One of the Godzillas is fueled by the rage of what happened to him, the other one is trying to defend the people of Japan as they are harmless in these actions. This movie would play out a lot like War of the Gargantuas. Having two Godzillas in one movie is nothing new. Hideaki Anno originally wanted to add multiple Godzillas to Shin Godzilla 2. We also see multiple Godzillas in one movie in the anime trilogy, and in the Monsterverse. Dagon and Godzilla were both alive at the same time, and it seems that with Godzilla x Kong the New Empire diving into the origins of the monsters and exploring the Titan War in the Hollow Earth, we could see multiple Godzillas on screen together for a flashback sequence in that movie. We also see some cave paintings from Godzilla vs. Kong featuring multiple Godzillas fighting together. This idea that Hideaki Anno had originally came to be as a way to sell more toys. While Toho did shoot this down, as we'll talk about in a minute, Toho did allow them to give Godzilla multiple forms in Shin Godzilla and Godzilla Singular Point as a way to sell more toys without having to do versus monster battles. I think that's sort of what Toho is trying to avoid. In the art of Shin Godzilla, we learned learned that Anno originally wanted Godzilla to be able to duplicate himself when he got too big, resulting in two Godzillas splitting off from one another, much like the meat snake. This idea was rejected by Toho, but elements of it made its way into the shooting script, which were actually filmed and completed in a deleted scene in which soldiers find a replicating Godzilla spine in the aftermath of the Tokyo attack. There's also a few plot threads in the actual movie Shin Godzilla about how they are worried that Godzilla could replicate himself from almost nothing, implying that he could clone himself. So having two Godzillas in one movie is nothing new. We are on our way towards that becoming a reality, and while there are two Godzillas in Godzilla Monster Planet, they do not share any screen time, so it seems like that's the trajectory we are heading down. Not only does it allow them to sell more toys, but it allows them to not have to do the versus battles in the traditional way we've seen them before, and to do new things that explore Godzilla in new capacities. Here's a little bit of insider info that I have, and I don't like to talk about insider info because sometimes it's wrong, and so I don't cover it. But I do know that Godzilla Minus One is being produced as a response to the Monsterverse, not because Toho dislikes the Monsterverse, but because they think there is more to Godzilla than is being explored there. If this movie is a response to the Monsterverse and the Monsterverse is essentially just versus movies, well then this movie would stand to reason that it would be the opposite of that. So I do think it's more than possible that this is a Godzilla solo film. I know it's weird for me to be the one saying that this is probably going to be a movie with one Godzilla rather than two, because I'm normally the one saying the opposite, but I just have a feeling. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I hope they execute things in a very exciting way. Another reason I think this will be false is because Tokyo Toy Bastard on Twitter reported in response to a tweet I made about what the casting situation was for this movie. In his report, he claims that he has been around some of the extras cast in this film and says that they were all playing Japanese military. Toho was turning down foreign extras for this film, so he doubts that the United States will have much presence in this movie aside from potentially aerial combat like in Shin Godzilla. He speculates that the occupying forces that would be in Japan could even be wiped out at the start of this movie. Now you might be wondering, what does that have to do with anything at all? Well, the appearance of the US military is important because if those plot leaks are true about the two Godzillas, the one whale Godzilla and then the real Godzilla going at it, if those rumors are true, then this report can't be true. Either one is true or the other. Together they completely crumble, because an entire plot line around the original plot leak stemmed from Dr. Serizawa going to the United States military to develop the oxygen destroyer with them. That cannot happen if the United States military is not involved in this movie, and I have reason to believe it isn't. Again, I don't like to report on insider information because it could be wrong, and so I don't know exactly how true this is. But I have heard personally that this movie will be featuring a Japanese defense force against Godzilla. I'm not going to really give anything else away other than that, but given that that's what I was informed, and given that Tokyo Toy Bastard reported that there were Japanese military cast, those two things line up, which makes me think that probably we're not going to be seeing the United States in this movie very much. Now we arrive at Dai-chan Movie Room. This is a Japanese Godzilla YouTuber. I've got him linked down below. He's actually very popular. You can go check him out down below. He does speak exclusively Japanese, so be prepared for that. But he made a video discussing the two Godzilla theory, and he debunked a lot of things in a very interesting way, and so I wanted to talk about the things he covers in his video because I think it gives us extra insights on what's going on in this new movie. He says that in Japan, a popular theory relating to this film is that Godzilla is going to currently be undergoing evolution throughout the course of this film. The Godzilla that appears in the trailer is a middle to late stage of this evolution, and the evolution is triggered by nuclear radiation. This theory stems from the original casting calls from the movie, which stated that the film would be set between the years 1945 and 1947. Due to this range in time, many viewers believe that Godzilla will be transforming from his original state into the Godzilla we fear. Personally, I believe that's because we're going to be picking up with the immediate aftermath of World War II, and then we're going to time skip a little bit to Japan being put back together, only for Godzilla to show back up and knock them back down. But it seems that a lot of Japanese fans do not agree with my interpretation of this movie. This very popular theory states that in 1945, a pre-evolved Godzilla would appear and be repelled by the occupying forces of Japan. Whether that be the remains of the Japanese military or the actual US occupation is to be determined. Godzilla accidentally causes destruction during this sequence. Due to the injuries sustained, Godzilla develops a grudge against humanity, only to be hit with an atomic bomb near the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Proving Grounds. This atomic bomb, detonated by the United States, most likely occurs in the year 1946, so now we're a year later. Following this, Godzilla returns to Japan in 1947, now the radiated and horrifying version we see in the trailers. His radiation poisoning will continue to deform him as the film progresses. In this theory, the destruction of Tokyo we see in the trailer may come from the fight against the original Godzilla who shows up, and then they rebuild parts of Tokyo only for him to show up more powerful and knock it back down into the minus. Godzilla keeps returning to Japan again and again because there is something there that he is in need of, and that can be exploited against him in the film. This film would dive dive into the origins of Godzilla and explore his personality and what makes him tick. Dai-chan mentions how lots of the discussion around this movie seems to be focused on the use of a third atomic bomb and how that could be used to defeat Godzilla and the moral dilemmas that would cause. Personally, that sounds to me like we're retreading the plot of Shin Godzilla a lot, but I do think that's a very realistic thing for this film to be tackling, and is also very personal to the 1945 setting. So it's all about the execution and how it's done, but I would be all for that if that's the plot of this movie. This film seems likely to show the continued battle between Godzilla and the people of Japan over the years, symbolizing both the actual war and Japan's multi-decade-long war against Godzilla in media. Dai-chan now states that there are lots of rumors about the fact that this film's climax seems to be about Godzilla fighting another monster. He believes that this film could be similar to the Versus series, where another monster shows up towards the end and Godzilla must take on this opponent. However, he is very clear about that these are just theories with no real foundation. One popular theory in Japan seems to be about a creature called Nomi. This creature will be hit by the atomic bomb early in the movie and then mutated into the Godzilla we see in the trailer. Meanwhile, another creature, Gozu, represents a version of Godzilla without any radiation poisoning. Now we're getting into the proper TWO Godzilla theories, and now he is addressing it head on. These two creatures would be at odds, pulling in the likes of Dr. Serizawa and the Oxygen Destroyer. The climax of this film would culminate in a sequence where Gozu tries to stop Godzilla from destroying Tokyo, leading to a War of the Gargantuas-esque battle that takes them back out to sea. This film is supposed to have a very tragic ending. So now we're like, okay, Dai-chan is addressing this rumor. Where did he hear it? Well, he heard it from 4chan. He's talking about the exact same rumor that all of the US people covering this are talking about. I also think it's very interesting, and I've not seen anybody bring this up, but if this was true, why would a leaker post the very first info on Godzilla 0, which is what they called it, in English? Wouldn't it pop up in Japanese? Why is Dai-chan saying that the rumor originally circulates from an English website? It would have popped up in Japan and then made its way to America, but Dai-chan says that this happened the other way around. He also shoots down this rumor himself. He states that information provided by Toho and information from the filmmakers confirmed these rumors to be false, although he does not provide what information he's talking about, and as of now, I don't know what he refers to here, because Toho hasn't shot this down yet. Nothing that has come out yet has truthfully shot down these rumors, which is why they persist and are so popular, and why all of the comments on my last Godzilla Minus One video are all about the two Godzillas and how people really believe it. Well, he doesn't. I guess this is a well-known theory in Japan that people just don't believe. However, there is a different theory in Japan that people do believe. There is a wide expectation that Godzilla Minus One will be the first of 2 movies, and that a proper 70th anniversary Godzilla celebration is on the way, but will not be announced until after Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. He states that the US fans are not on the same page in regards to this and have not been talking about this rumor the way that the Japanese fans have. I've never heard of this rumor before. I don't know where it comes from. That's why, because we don't know about it. He states that this comes from someone who may have participated in this project that reported that the sequel was being branded as 0, going from -1 to 0, and many mistook this to be the movie that was coming out next, Godzilla Minus One. So it's a case of misidentification, where people thought that this original leaker was talking about the upcoming Godzilla movie when in fact they were talking about its sequel. He then states that the supposed Godzilla 0 is potentially supposed to be an international film with an international plot, and that crew members were seen wearing Godzilla 0 t-shirts. That's where this all originated from. Somebody who was around the set and saw people wearing Godzilla 0 t-shirts, and from what they picked up on what the people were saying, formulated this report. Now, Dai-chan is skeptical about this, saying that he believes that this is another case of misidentification and misunderstanding. He believes that the title Minus 1.0, written out with the numbers Minus 1.0, was seen on a shirt and misidentified both as a sequel and as being called Godzilla 0, because if you're not looking at a shirt from head on, it could very easily say G0. You don't see the -1 in front. He says that if a sequel is on the way, it is very likely that it will only be the case if this movie does well. And that's what we all come back to, is that this is another case of Toho just kind of putting their toes in the water. Toho was considering a sequel for Shin Godzilla. There are a couple rumors about why they didn't pursue that sequel, ranging from maybe not necessarily being happy with the creative direction that Anno wanted to head, to Anno not wanting to return himself, to even Anno wanting to pass the torch to Higuchi, when instead Toho wanted Anno to be the one to do it. Shin Godzilla made enormous amounts of money, so it's shocking that they're not pursuing a sequel, but they're not at the moment. Even as recently as Godzilla Festival 2022, it was stated by the Toho spokesperson that they were not actively pursuing a sequel at this time. Godzilla Singular Point had some setup for a season 2 2, although from what I've heard, and I have no idea if this is fully true, it seems they expected it to be a one-off, but that they were open to a sequel, but then things got in the way and they weren't able to do a sequel. Well, that could be the case here as well. Maybe they are wanting to develop this into a new cinematic universe, the world of Godzilla that people so often talk about, even though I have definitely, this is for sure what I've heard, is that the world of Godzilla is the Monsterverse, that's the cinematic universe, and that all the other stuff that they were talking about refers to the global brand of Godzilla. Everything is technically the world of Godzilla as long as it's part of the Godzilla brand. Licensing, apparel, crossovers, merchandise, TV shows, children's shows in the Monsterverse, as well as their solo movies. That's the world of Godzilla. But maybe this is the birth of a new cinematic universe. Maybe this will follow the Showa trajectory. Maybe we'll get a Godzilla sequel where he fights another Godzilla or an Anguirus. Maybe that'll spin off into a Mothra solo movie or a Rodan solo movie, and then it'll all culminate in a Ghidorah movie, just like the originals. Who knows? One thing I do find very interesting, though, is that a lot of people are on different pages about this movie in terms of if it'll feature a second Godzilla or if it'll feature the evolution of Godzilla, but there is one underlying theme that people seem to agree upon, and that's that this movie will unpack the origins of Godzilla and explore what Godzilla looks like before he's radiated, and how that mutation occurs and what it does to him, and getting into the actual physical development of Godzilla. So if there's anything to take away from this video, it's that the two Godzilla theories may be unfounded at the moment, but a lot of people are on the same page that we will see something else in this movie, that there is more going on to it than meets the eye, and that there is a wide potential for an unirradiated Godzilla to show up. And that could be very interesting. I'm all for that. Just as long as it's more interesting and compelling than the Godzillasaur, I'm down for it. Give us a sea monster, like they alluded to in the 1954 film. That'd be cool. Before the video ends, and I actually moved this segment from the start to the end just to keep things focused, I'm going to show off some art from the community that generally relates to this topic. So if you want to see some potential explorations as to a Godzilla Minus 2, a Godzilla Minus One sequel, and alternate Godzilla designs, then check out this portion of the video. Just really quickly before we begin, I wanted to show off this artwork from Write a Book. I think it's wonderful. It's his Godzilla Minus One sketch. I just think it's a really great art piece. I love his art, so I wanted to show it off. Another one that I think is really wonderful comes to us from Shin Kaiju Artist. This is his Godzilla 2023. It's a really good version of this new design. An artist that I know we've talked about before is Garayan Artist. This is his Godzilla Minus One. I love the red G in the background. That looks wonderful, and the incredible storm behind Godzilla makes him look very apocalyptic. His version of this Godzilla 2023 design is super cool. It's got a lot of Millennium influences I can see in here. And one thing that he does that I just think looks great is puts the blue sparkles in the dorsal spines, showing that he's charging up his atomic breath. It looks awesome. I think it's super, super cool. And I guess it goes to show that thing that I was talking about in the last video, that Godzilla can look great with blue or red atomic breath with this new design. Although I do think the design lends itself a bit more towards red. I stumbled across an artist named Shigeo Dynamics. He drew some fan art for Godzilla Minus 2, that's what he calls it, a supposed sequel to Godzilla Minus One, the follow-up, basically the Showa era continuation. The Godzilla raids again to this Godzilla movie. In this artwork, he features his interpretation of the 2023 design fighting Anguirus. This is fantastic. I really like it. I think it's so fun. I think it's super fun to see this Godzilla, first of all, in a kaiju fight, but I also love his Anguirus redesign. It's so classic, but also updated in just the same way. An extra spiky boy that looks extra angry. We also have a couple pictures of his Anguirus design, so one showing it off. This one's looking a little more classic than the one that was in the fight. We have a pencil sketching version of that fight. We have a true sketch version of it, a version that is well before finished, and then a sketch of his Anguirus as he was figuring out its design. That's really good stuff. Another artist I know we've talked about before, this is Jared Modena Designs, and he did a Godzilla 2023 redesign based on the original Godzilla 1954 concept art, taking inspiration from Yamazaki's actual Godzilla Minus One design. This is doubly relevant because it goes back to the stuff I talked about in my Everything We Know About Godzilla Zero video before we knew what the movie was gonna be, when I was talking about what I wanted from a Godzilla design in this movie, and that's something that pays homage to the original concept art from Gojira. This one definitely does that, making him a little bit more of a sea monster. This is the kind of thing that I think would divide the fan base, with a lot of people really excited about it and a lot of people super upset that it is not more traditional, even though in a way this is their most traditional Godzilla you could do. Now the reason I wanted to show this one off, and the reason I think it's doubly relevant, is because one of the Godzillas is supposed to pull heavy inspiration from actual sea life and is not supposed supposed to look like the Godzilla we all know and love. It does play into similar features with the big ears, the more traditional eyebrows, kind of a bigger nose, and a more lizard-like tongue and mouth. Although this one's got very exaggerated proportions and a giant chest, again, I really love this redesign. It still kind of plays upon similar themes of going back to Godzilla's basic roots to create a new creature out of it. Finally here, and to be honest, I can't remember why I put this in this video, but I'll show it off just because I have it here. My Kaiju revamped his Godzilla Minus One poster, making it a Ground Zero poster edition with planes flying into bomb Godzilla. This one's a lot more ominous and destructive than his original. It's got a lot more digital elements to it, like this grain in the front and this kind of debris floating around Godzilla. This is great stuff. Incredible artist, incredible art. I love it. All right, what do you guys think about all this down below? I know this was a long special report, but there was a lot to get through. I know that a lot of people were hooked on the idea that there would be 2 Godzillas in this movie, but I'm not. For once, I'm the one who's not, which probably means there will be, because every time I've said that there would be 2 Godzillas, it just didn't happen on screen. So now that I'm saying it probably won't, let's get ready for 2 Godzillas. I'm excited. Oh wait, but now I'm on the side of 2 Godzillas because I wasn't on the side of 2 Godzillas, but now that I'm on that side, it means that there won't be. So there's actually a paradox here, and the movie's not going to come out as what just happened. Well, I'm sorry I canceled the movie, guys. If you want to support this channel, you can use the Thank you to all the people who support the Patreon, is what I was trying to say. I really appreciate the support I get over in the Patreon. If you want to support this channel, you can by supporting the Patreon link down below. I really appreciate all the support I get there. It goes a super long way towards making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys. I'll do my best to keep digging to find out what the truth is behind this situation, and I will see you guys later for that. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. D-Man out.